Kill your average self. He almost did not send the email. He had written it 3 times. Deleted it 3 times. Written it a 4th time, read it twice, and held his finger over the send button for a period that he would later be unable to accurately estimate. It felt like minutes, though it was probably seconds, with the specific interior paralysis of someone standing at the edge of something genuinely irreversible. The email was to his supervisor. It said, with the specific directness that 3 rewrites had finally produced, that he was resigning from the position he had held for 9 years. That he was declining the promotion that had just been offered. That he was choosing, instead, a direction that had no guarantee of success and no established path and no institutional support and no salary for the foreseeable future. His name was Lawrence. He was 35 years old. He had spent 9 years building a career that was, by every conventional measure, successful. The salary was respectable. The progression was reliable. The work was not meaningless, he was contributing something genuine to something genuine. The colleagues were people he respected. The organization valued him. None of it was wrong. That was the specific difficulty. He was not escaping something bad. He was choosing to leave something adequate. And adequate, from the inside, felt like a particular kind of slow suffocation that no external assessment of it as objectively fine could prevent. He had been, for 9 years, operating at approximately 60% of what he understood himself to be genuinely capable of. Not because the work was undemanding. It was genuinely demanding. But the specific dimension of himself that the demand was placed upon was not the dimension that he understood to contain his genuine capacity. He was performing the functions that the role required with sufficient competence to be valued and promoted. He was not doing anything that required the part of him that felt most genuinely alive. He had a specific phrase for it, used only in the private space of his own journal and never in any conversation with anyone who might reasonably offer the practical objections that the phrase would invite. He was living his average self. Not his worst self. His average self. The self that was safe and competent and reliable and unremarkable and never went to bed at night with the specific satisfaction of someone who had operated at their genuine capacity and who knew it. The self that moved through each day in the comfortable groove of what was established and familiar and socially approved and financially sensible. The self that managed the reasonable expectations of a reasonable life with reasonable competence. The average self. He sent the email. Not because he was certain of success. He was not. The direction he was moving toward was genuinely uncertain and the probability of specific outcomes was genuinely unknown and the financial consequences of the choice were genuinely significant and the social consequences, the specific, quiet withdrawal of the approval that the conventional path had been providing, were genuinely uncomfortable. He sent it because he had finally understood something that 9 years of average self-living had been specifically designed to allow him to defer understanding. That the average self does not protect you. It slowly, quietly, entirely replaces you. Not through a dramatic moment of obvious loss. Through the specific, daily, accumulative process of choosing the comfortable familiar over the genuinely reaching. The safe over the genuine. The approved over the alive. The average over the specific, irreplaceable, genuinely particular version of yourself that exists in the potential beyond the average. He had been killing that version of himself for 9 years. One reasonable choice at a time. One comfortable deferral at a time. One acceptable compromise at a time. Each of them individually defensible. Each of them collectively amounting to the specific internal atrophying of everything most genuinely him. He sent the email. And in the sending, in the specific, terrifying, completely genuine act of choosing something that required more of him than the average self was being asked to provide, something that had been atrophying began, tentatively and uncertainly and with genuine effort, to become available again. This is what we are exploring today. Not as the counsel of reckless abandonment of everything responsible. As the honest, philosophically grounded, genuinely urgent examination of the specific process by which the average self replaces the genuine self. And what is required to reverse that replacement before the reversal is no longer available. This is Stoic Ascension. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on your notifications because every single video here is built for exactly this level of honest philosophical engagement. The kind that names what most people feel but have never been given precise enough language to genuinely confront. What comes after this builds directly on everything you are about to hear. Do not miss what is coming. What the average self actually is, and how it forms. The average self is not a villain. This is the first and most important thing to understand about it. It is not the product of laziness or cowardice or any fundamental inadequacy of character. It is the natural, almost inevitable product of a specific set of pressures that every human being navigates and that the vast majority of human beings navigate by gradually, incrementally, almost invisibly accommodating rather than genuinely resisting. The average self is the version of yourself that emerges when the primary governance of your choices shifts from genuine interior direction to external social management. When what you do and how you are and who you present yourself to be is determined primarily not by what the genuine interior requires but by what the social environment approves, what the institutional structure rewards, what the people around you expect, and what the cumulative weight of previous choices has established as the default. It forms slowly. Almost invisibly. Through the accumulation of individually reasonable choices that each represent a small departure from genuine interior direction in the direction of social approval or institutional reward or comfortable familiar default. The first compromise is so small that calling it a compromise feels melodramatic. You choose the more pragmatic professional direction over the genuinely compelling one because the pragmatic direction has a clearer path and the compelling one has too much uncertainty at this particular moment. You will return to the compelling one when the circumstances are more favorable. The circumstances become more favorable. The return does not happen. Because the pragmatic direction has now accumulated investment, financial, social, psychological, that makes the return feel increasingly expensive. And a new small compromise is made. A further departure from the genuine interior direction in the direction of the established path that the previous compromise set in motion. This continues. Each step individually reasonable. Each step cumulatively moving further from the specific version of yourself that the genuine interior was pointing toward and further into the specific version of yourself that the social environment's approval and the institutional structure's reward and the comfortable familiar's gravitational pull are collectively producing. By the time the process is visible, by the time the specific experience of operating at 60% and living in the comfortable groove of the established and familiar becomes sufficiently uncomfortable to be genuinely noticed, the average self has been building for years. Sometimes decades. And the distance between where you are and where the genuine interior was pointing has grown from a small correctable gap into something that looks, from the inside, like an enormous and possibly uncrossable distance. The Stoics understood this process with the specific precision of people who had watched it operate across countless lives and who had developed a philosophy specifically designed to interrupt it. Epictetus described the average self in terms of the person who has surrendered the governance of their choices to external forces. Who has allowed the opinions of others, the approval of the crowd, the rewards of the institution, to become the primary directors of what they do and who they are. Who is governed from outside rather than from inside. Who is performing a life rather than inhabiting one. Marcus Aurelius described the specific danger of drifting. Of allowing the day's demands and the established patterns and the momentum of what has been built to carry the life forward without the specific, daily, deliberate examination of where the life is actually going and whether that direction is genuinely chosen or merely accumulated. He wrote about the necessity of regular return to the genuine interior. Of asking, regularly and honestly, whether the life being lived was the one that genuine examination would choose. Not whether it was adequate by external measures. Whether it was genuinely the direction that the most honest interior would select. Most people never ask this question. Not because they are avoiding it consciously. Because the average self that the accumulating compromises have built is so thoroughly the context of their daily experience that the question of whether a different self might have been possible, and might still be possible, has stopped feeling like a genuine question and has started feeling like the fantasy of someone who does not understand how things actually work. The average self's most effective defense is the specific belief that it is the only realistic version of yourself available. That the genuine interior direction that would lead somewhere other than here is impractical, irresponsible, immature, or simply impossible given the specific circumstances of the specific life that the specific choices have produced. This belief is the average self's primary protection. And killing the average self begins with recognizing this belief for exactly what it is. Not realism. The rationalization of accommodation. Why the Stoics insisted on the genuine self over the average one, the philosophical foundation. The Stoic philosophical tradition is, at its deepest level, a philosophy of genuine self-actualization. Not self-actualization in the popular psychological sense of discovering and expressing a fixed inner essence. But in the more demanding and more precise Stoic sense of genuinely becoming the person that honest examination reveals as most fully human. Most fully alive. Most genuinely aligned with the specific qualities, wisdom, courage, justice, self-discipline, that constitute genuine excellence of character. The average self is, in the Stoic framework, a form of failing to be fully human. Not a moral failure in the judgmental sense. A specific, tragic failure to inhabit the genuine potential of what a human being actually is and actually is capable of. Epictetus asked his students a question that the Stoic tradition has returned to consistently across centuries: do you know what you are? Not who you are in the social sense, your name, your role, your position. What you are. What kind of being a human being actually is. What the genuine potential of that being is. And whether the life you are living is in any genuine relationship to that potential. His answer to what kind of being a human being is was precise and demanding. A human being is a rational, social creature capable of genuine wisdom, genuine courage, genuine justice, and genuine excellence. Not capable of these things in the sense of having them as fixed traits, but capable in the sense of being able to build them through the specific daily practice of choosing and exercising them. And the person who is not choosing and exercising them, who is instead choosing safety and comfort and social approval and the convenient compromise, is failing to be what they actually are. Is living the average self rather than the genuine one. Is, in the most precise Stoic sense, wasting the specific resource of a human life on the production of something considerably smaller than what a human life is actually capable of producing. Marcus Aurelius spent his private journals in a continuous, honest, demanding engagement with exactly this question. Not am I successful by the external measures available to me. Am I becoming what a human being is capable of becoming? Am I living at the full height of what this specific life makes available? Or am I accommodating? Compromising? Drifting? Choosing the comfortable familiar over the genuinely reaching? He was Emperor of Rome. By every external measure, he had surpassed every reasonable standard of success. His private journals reveal someone who understood that external success and the genuine living of the genuine self are not the same thing. Who held himself to the specific internal standard of genuine character development with the same, arguably greater, rigor than any external standard of worldly success. This is the Stoic understanding of why the average self must be killed. Not because it is evil. Because it is an abandonment of the specific responsibility that comes with being the specific kind of being a human being is. A responsibility to become genuinely more than the comfortable compromise. To inhabit the genuine potential rather than the socially approved substitute. To choose, in each specific moment that genuine choice is available, the direction of the genuine self over the gravity of the average one. The specific mechanisms through which the average self maintains itself, and how each must be addressed. The average self is not maintained by a single force. It is maintained by a system of specific, reinforcing mechanisms that work together to keep the accommodation in place and to make the genuine self's direction feel increasingly unavailable. Understanding each mechanism is the beginning of being able to genuinely address it. The mechanism of social approval as primary governance. The human being is a social creature. The need for belonging, for recognition, for the approval of the people whose opinion matters, these needs are genuine and their satisfaction is genuinely important. The Stoics never denied the social nature of human beings or suggested that the opinions of others were irrelevant. But they were precise about the specific danger of allowing social approval to become the primary governance of your choices. Of making what you do primarily a function of what the social environment will approve rather than what the genuine interior would choose. The average self is, in significant measure, the product of social approval governance. The choices that were made because they were what the people around you expected. The directions that were taken because they were what the social environment recognized and rewarded. The aspects of the genuine self that were suppressed or modified because they were too unusual, too demanding, too far outside the range of what the social environment was comfortable approving. Killing this mechanism requires the specific practice of what the Stoics called philosophical independence. The deliberate, daily practice of making at least some choices from genuine interior direction rather than from social approval. The practice of asking, before each significant choice, whether you are choosing from the genuine interior or from the social environment's expectations. And then, this is the demanding part, actually choosing from the genuine interior even when the social environment's expectations point somewhere different. Not in all things. Not in ways that are gratuitously offensive or unnecessarily destructive of genuine relationships. But consistently. In the specific choices that matter most. In the choices about direction, about investment, about who to be in the moments that most reveal it. In those choices, the governance must come from inside rather than from outside. This is the specific practice that Lawrence had not been doing for 9 years. His choices had been primarily governed by social approval, by the institutional reward structure, by the expectations of the people around him, by the comfortable familiarity that the approval-governed life had produced. The email he finally sent was the first choice in years that came primarily from the genuine interior rather than from the social governance structure that had been running the show. The mechanism of sunk cost reasoning. The average self protects itself with extraordinary effectiveness through the specific reasoning pattern that psychologists call the sunk cost fallacy and that the Stoics addressed with remarkable directness in their philosophical framework. The reasoning goes like this: you have already invested significantly in the direction that the average self represents. Years of your life. Substantial financial resources. The professional relationships and the institutional position and the specific knowledge and expertise that the accumulated investment has produced. Leaving all of this to pursue the direction that the genuine self points toward would mean writing off everything that has been invested. Would mean acknowledging that the direction of the previous years was not the optimal one. Would mean beginning again from something closer to zero in a direction that has no established path and no guaranteed outcome. This reasoning feels very persuasive because it engages something that is genuinely true. The investment is real. The cost of redirecting is real. The uncertainty of the new direction is real. What it misrepresents is the cost of not redirecting. The specific, ongoing, daily cost of continuing to invest in a direction that the genuine interior has identified as not genuinely aligned with what the genuine self is actually pointing toward. The cost measured not in money or professional position but in the specific atrophying of the genuine self that continues to occur with each additional year of investment in the wrong direction. The Stoics were precise about this. They understood that the relevant question in any decision about direction is not how much has been invested in the current direction but what the genuine assessment of the current direction produces when the investment is excluded from the analysis. What does the direction provide when the sunk cost is honestly set aside? What does it cost in the specific currency of genuine self-development? And is the continued investment in it the best available use of the time that remains? Marcus Aurelius addressed this with his characteristic directness: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Not the past investment. The present moment and the direction it genuinely points. The sunk cost mechanism is among the average self's most powerful defenders. Killing it requires the specific, honest practice of evaluating the current direction not by what has been invested in it but by what it actually provides and at what genuine cost to the genuine self's development. The mechanism of worst-case fixation. The average self survives because the genuine self's direction is genuinely uncertain. And the specific experience of genuine uncertainty is something that the untrained mind manages through the specific cognitive strategy of worst-case fixation, the habitual, automatic focus on the worst possible outcomes of the uncertain direction. The job left without a guaranteed replacement. The business started without a guaranteed market. The relationship ended without a guaranteed better one. The direction chosen without a guaranteed arrival. The genuine self pursued without a guaranteed external validation of the choice. The worst-case fixation takes these genuine uncertainties and converts them into the maximally catastrophic version of themselves. The job left means poverty. The business started means failure and embarrassment. The relationship ended means permanent loneliness. The genuine self-pursued means rejection and isolation. These worst cases are possible. They are not, in the honest statistical assessment of most people's genuine situations, likely. And they are not, in the Stoic framework, what the decision should be made from. The Stoic response to worst-case fixation is not the naive insistence that everything will work out. It is the specific, honest, examined engagement with the actual probabilities and the actual consequences of the actual options. The practice of asking what the worst case actually is, how likely it actually is, and whether it is actually worse than the specific, ongoing cost of the average self's continued governance. And then, this is the practice that most people do not do, asking what the best case of remaining in the average self actually is. The continuation of the comfortable groove. The maintenance of the adequate. The ongoing production of the 60% version of what you are actually capable of. The honest comparison of these two is not always as clear-cut as the worst-case fixation suggests. The worst case of the genuine self's direction is often less catastrophic than the fixation makes it. The best case of the average self's continuation is often less satisfying than the comfort of the familiar makes it feel. The mechanism of temporal deferral. The average self's most effective long-term strategy is the perpetual postponement of the genuine self's direction to a future moment when the conditions will be more favorable. When the financial situation is more secure. When the children are older. When the professional position is more established. When the timing is better. When the circumstances cooperate in the specific ways that the genuine self's direction requires but that the current circumstances do not provide. The Stoics addressed this mechanism with a directness that is both uncomfortable and entirely accurate. The future moment of more favorable conditions almost never arrives. Not because circumstances do not change. They do. But because the moment the current obstacle to the genuine self's direction is resolved, a new obstacle is generated by the changed circumstances. The financial security that would have made the direction possible arrives at the same time as the new responsibilities that make the direction feel as risky as before. The children who were too young become the children who are now in school and require stability. The professional position that was too insecure becomes the professional position that is now too valuable to jeopardize. There is always a reason to wait. And the waiting is the average self's most patient and most effective strategy for indefinite preservation. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the specific urgency of the present moment with the consistency of someone who genuinely understood that the present moment is the only moment in which any genuine action is ever taken. That the future moments the temporal deferral is pointing toward are not real in any actionable sense. That the only real moment is now. And that the genuine self's direction, if it is ever to be genuinely taken, must begin now. Not in its full, completed form. But in the specific, small, immediately available expression that the present moment actually contains. What killing the average self actually requires, the honest accounting. Killing the average self is not a single dramatic act. It is not the sending of a single email, the making of a single grand gesture, the one bold choice that permanently replaces accommodation with genuine self-expression. It is a practice. A daily, ongoing, never-finished practice of choosing the genuine over the average in the specific moments where both are available. Not all moments provide this choice in visible form. Many moments of a day are genuinely neutral, the choice between coffee and tea, the route taken to work, the specific order in which tasks are completed. These moments do not carry the weight of the genuine self versus the average self. But many moments do. More than most people recognize. And the practice of killing the average self is the practice of recognizing these moments and choosing differently in them than the average self's gravitational pull is directing. The moment where genuine engagement with a difficult idea is available and the comfortable dismissal of it is also available. The moment where genuine honesty in a conversation is available and the comfortable vagueness is also available. The moment where the work could be done at the level that the genuine self is actually capable of or at the level that is sufficient for the external expectations. The moment where the risk that genuine growth requires could be taken or the comfortable familiar could be maintained. In each of these moments, the average self is choosing. Has been choosing. Will continue choosing unless something interrupts the choosing with genuine deliberateness. The interruption is the practice. The specific, daily, practiced pause that asks, is this the choice of the genuine self or the average one? Is this the direction of the person I am actually capable of being or the direction of the comfortable groove? Is this engagement at the level of genuine capacity or at the level of social adequacy? And then the genuine choice. Not always the dramatic one. Not always the one that involves significant visible risk. But the genuine one. The one that comes from the actual interior rather than from the social governance or the sunk cost reasoning or the worst-case fixation or the temporal deferral. These small, daily, mostly private genuine choices are the practice through which the average self is killed. Not through a single grand gesture. Through the accumulation of thousands of specific moments in which the average self's choice was available and the genuine self's choice was made instead. This is demanding. Not because each individual choice is impossibly difficult. Because the accumulation requires consistency across the full range of conditions that daily life provides, including and especially the conditions in which the average self's gravitational pull is strongest. The conditions of genuine social pressure, of genuine financial anxiety, of genuine institutional risk. The conditions in which the comfortable familiar is most seductive and the genuine self's direction is most uncertain and most costly. In those conditions, the practice requires the specific quality that the Stoics identified as the foundation of all genuine excellence, courage. Not the dramatic courage of the single grand gesture. The quiet, consistent, daily courage of choosing the genuine over the average in the specific moments where the average is safer and the genuine is costly. Where the accommodation is immediately rewarded and the genuine engagement is immediately uncertain. Where the average self's direction is the path of least resistance and the genuine self's direction requires the specific effort of going against the grain of what is comfortable and established and socially approved. This courage is built the same way any other genuine quality is built. Through practice. Through the accumulation of specific moments where it was exercised. Where the genuine choice was made despite the genuine discomfort. Where the average self's gravitational pull was met with something that genuinely resisted it. Each of those moments is both the exercise and the building of the capacity for the next one. And the capacity, built through consistent practice across months and years, becomes the specific quality of a person who has genuinely killed their average self. Not perfectly. Not permanently without the need for ongoing practice. But genuinely. In the specific ways that produce the recognizable difference between someone who is genuinely themselves and someone who is performing the version of themselves that the social environment has been shaping. The specific daily practices that kill the average self, what they look like in an actual life. The morning practice of genuine self-confrontation. Before the day begins providing its specific pressures toward the average self's direction, before the institutional demands, before the social governance, before the comfortable familiar's gravity begins operating, create the specific space for honest self-confrontation. The specific question is not, how can I be more impressive today? That question serves the social governance mechanism. The specific question is, what would the genuinely best version of myself do today that the average version would not? What specific choice, in the specific circumstances this day is likely to provide, represents the genuinely reaching over the comfortable adequate? This question, asked honestly and specifically, almost always produces a clear and uncomfortable answer. Because the genuinely best version of yourself knows, with considerable specificity, what it would do that the average version is declining to do. It knows the conversation that needs to be had. The risk that deserves to be taken. The quality of engagement that the work deserves. The honest expression that the relationship deserves. The specific direction that the genuine interior has been pointing toward and that the average self has been finding reasons to defer. Write it down. Not as aspiration. As commitment. The specific, concrete, immediately actionable thing that the genuine self would do today. And then, this is the practice, do it. Not the entire direction. The specific, available, immediately actionable expression of it that today provides. The practice of voluntary exposure to the genuine self's discomfort. The average self is maintained by the specific management of discomfort. The specific avoidance of the circumstances that make the average self feel genuinely challenged. The specific arrangement of life to minimize the exposure to the conditions that would require something beyond the comfortable adequate. Killing the average self requires the deliberate reversal of this management. The specific, regular, voluntary exposure to the circumstances that the average self most reliably avoids. The difficult conversation chosen rather than deferred. The work brought to the level of genuine capacity rather than maintained at the level of social adequacy. The risk accepted rather than managed into non-existence. The vulnerability expressed rather than protected behind the comfortable distance of the average self-specific defenses. Each of these voluntary exposures is simultaneously unpleasant in the specific way that challenge is unpleasant and productive in the specific way that genuine self-development is productive. The discomfort signals genuine engagement with the edge of current capacity. And the edge of current capacity is exactly where genuine development occurs. Seneca practiced voluntary hardship daily. Not as punishment but as the specific, deliberate maintenance of his access to the genuine self that comfortable circumstances could gradually erode. He wanted to know, not from theory but from direct experience, that the average self's management of comfort was not necessary. That what was genuine in him was accessible in the absence of the comfort as well as in its presence. This practice available to you is the deliberate, regular, voluntary engagement with the circumstances that produce the genuine self rather than the average one. The evening practice of honest assessment. At the end of each day, the specific, honest assessment of where the genuine self was expressed and where the average self governed. Not the global assessment of whether you are becoming genuinely yourself. The specific assessment of today's specific choices. Where the genuine choice was made. Where the average self's gravitational pull won. What the specific circumstances were in each case. What this reveals about where the practice needs the most deliberate attention tomorrow. This assessment is not comfortable. The average self's governance is often more extensive than the comfortable self-image would prefer to acknowledge. The specific moments where the genuine choice was available and the average one was made instead are more numerous, on most days, than the aspiration toward genuine selfhood would ideally produce. But the honesty of the assessment is exactly what makes it productive rather than merely uncomfortable. The specific identification of where the average self is most active, the specific circumstances, the specific pressures, the specific mechanisms that most reliably produce the average choice over the genuine one, is the most accurate available map of where the practice needs to be most concentrated. And the map, used honestly, makes tomorrow's practice more targeted and therefore more productive than today's. The practice of community with genuine self-people. The average self is maintained, in significant measure, by the social environment that has been built around it. The professional community that rewards the adequate. The social relationships that are comfortable with the comfortable version. The specific people whose presence most reliably reinforces the average self's direction by expecting it, rewarding it, and being made uncomfortable by anything that departs significantly from it. This does not mean abandoning these communities or these relationships. Most of them contain genuine value alongside the specific average self-reinforcement they provide. But killing the average self requires the deliberate building of additional community, of relationships with people who are themselves engaged in the genuine self-direction. Who are not comfortable with comfortable adequacy. Who expect more from themselves and from the people they spend genuine time with. Who provide the specific social environment in which the genuine self is not only permitted but actively expected and reinforced. Lawrence found this after the email. In the specific, difficult, genuinely uncertain years of building the direction the genuine self had been pointing toward, the relationships that sustained the practice were the ones with people who were themselves doing something similar. Who understood the specific cost of the genuine direction from direct experience. Who could not be persuaded that comfortable adequacy was sufficient because they had felt, from the inside, what it meant to operate beyond it. These relationships are among the most valuable things available in the project of killing the average self. Find them. Build them. Maintain them with the specific deliberateness that the project requires. What becomes available when the average self is genuinely killed? Lawrence spent 3 years in the direction the email made possible. The specific contents of those 3 years, the work, the direction, the specific form that the genuine self's expression took, were not what the comfortable groove of the previous 9 years had produced. They were also not what the aspiration had specifically imagined. The genuine self's expression rarely produces exactly what the imagination of it generates in advance. What it produced was something that the imagination could not have generated in advance because it was specifically his. Specifically the product of the genuine interior operating in genuine conditions with genuine engagement. Not the generic version of what the genuine direction produces. His version. The specific, irreplaceable, genuinely his version that only the genuine interior operating genuinely could have produced. And the quality of daily life inside that production was different from the quality of daily life inside the comfortable groove in the specific way that matters most. He went to bed at night knowing that the day had required something genuine from him. Not easy. Not reliably successful. Not externally validated in the ways that the institutional structure had provided. But genuine. Actually requiring the part of him that felt most genuinely alive. This is what killing the average self makes available. Not the guarantee of external success. Not the elimination of genuine difficulty. Not the arrival at a destination where everything is as it was imagined. The specific, daily, experiential quality of a life that is actually requiring something of the genuine self. That is actually engaging the part of you that is most genuinely capable and most genuinely alive. That is not, day by day, requiring 60% and leaving 40% of what you actually are untouched and therefore slowly atrophying. The full version. The genuine version. The specific, particular, completely yours version of what a human life can be when the average self's comfortable management of it is genuinely challenged rather than indefinitely accommodated. This is what the Stoics were pointing toward. What Epictetus was building from inside the 9x6 of human bondage. What Marcus Aurelius was building from inside the extraordinary demands of the most powerful position in the ancient world. What every person who has ever genuinely killed their average self has discovered in the genuinely uncertain, genuinely demanding, genuinely alive direction that the genuine self's governance produces. It is available to you. Not through the single dramatic gesture. Through the daily, consistent, honest, courageous practice of choosing the genuine over the average in the specific moments where both are available. Starting with the next one. The one that is available right now. In this specific moment. Subscribe to Stoic Ascension right now. Turn on your notifications. Every single video on this channel is built for exactly this depth and exactly this honesty. The kind that names what most people feel but have never been given precise enough language to genuinely confront and genuinely address. The philosophy, the practice, and the complete understanding of what genuinely becoming yourself actually requires. What comes after this builds directly on everything you just heard. Every video goes deeper. Every video takes the practice further into the specific dimensions of the genuine life that only the genuine self can produce. Lawrence almost did not send the email. The average self had 9 years invested in not sending it. He sent it anyway. And what became available after the sending was not what the average self had been managing to prevent. It was what had always been available on the other side of the average self's governance. The genuine self. Actually alive. Actually operating at capacity. Actually producing the specific, irreplaceable version of a life that only that particular person, genuinely inhabiting their genuine direction, was capable of producing. Kill your average self. Not with the dramatic gesture. With the next genuine choice. The one the average self is comfortable declining. Make it. Now.